How do we sometimes wake up like 1 minute before our alarm clock goes off? How do we sometimes feel like someone's watching us, turn around and see that we're actually right? How do we do that? Is it just random? Can it be scientifically proven? Is it something in our DNA? Are these mysteries possible to predict? Because today I'm diving into one of the most fascinating and controversial ideas in modern science. Something that could completely change how we understand memory, learning, and our connection to each other and the universe itself. I'm talking about morphic resonance, a theory proposed by British biologist Rupert Sheldrake that suggests there's an invisible field connecting all similar life forms across space and time. Think of it like if every time you learn something new, you weren't just storing it in your own brain, but contributing to a collective field that makes it easier for others to learn that same thing. Sounds a bit like science fiction, right? Because I was skeptical at first too. But before you click away thinking this is some kind of wacky new age pseudoscience, because there are mainstream scientists who dismiss it, I'd ask you to hear me out. Because whether or not morphic resonance is real in the way we traditionally understand science, the implications of the idea are profound. And in a world that, for many people, often feels disconnected and hopeless, it offers something we desperately need. A sense that our actions, our thoughts, our very existence matters more than we ever imagined. Remember when you first learned to ride a bike? Traditional science says you individually created neural pathways in your brain, mastered the mechanics, then your body held on to that complex coordination pattern to get your balance, and off you went. But the idea of morphic resonance suggests that you were also contributing to a collective bike riding field that made it slightly easier for the next person to learn. Maybe a younger sibling in your family, for example. Sheldrake suggests that different fields have memory, not just a genetic memory, but a kind of collective memory from everything in that field that has ever existed. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that sounds a bit far-fetched, and of course it's your right to be skeptical. The scientific establishment has in part rejected the theory. Nature magazine famously called Sheldrake's book the best candidate for burning, but the New Scientist called it an important scientific inquiry into the nature of biological and physical reality. So, who's right? Well, that's what I want to explore here. Let's look at some of the evidence Sheldrake uncovered. One famous example involves crystallization. When chemists create a brand new compound for the first time, it's often incredibly difficult to get it to crystallize. But the weird part is that once it has been crystallized successfully somewhere, anywhere in the world, it becomes easier to crystallize that same compound everywhere else. And there really isn't a conventional explanation for that, apart from the idea that somehow crystal fragments are being transported and shared around the world. But morphic resonance offers a different explanation, and that is that the first successful crystallization creates what's called a morphic field that influences subsequent attempts globally. Other fascinating examples come from animal behavior. There's a documented case of small birds in Britain called blue tits learning to pierce milk bottle tops to drink the cream. And this behavior spread rapidly across the country, and notably a lot faster than what could be explained by direct learning or migration patterns. Or the study on Kushima Island in Japan in the 1950s that observed monkeys washing sandy sweet potatoes in the sea, and once a critical number of them adopted the behavior, otherwise known as the 100th monkey theory, then monkeys of the same species on other unconnected islands started doing the exact same behavior. So how does this happen? How can that be explained by conventional science? Because as I said, the mainstream scientific community mostly doesn't accept morphic resonance. They argue there isn't enough rigorous evidence, that the examples I've mentioned can be somehow explained through conventional means that have just not yet been discovered. And maybe they're right. But what if they're wrong? What if there's something to this idea that we're only just beginning to understand? Because this brings me to one of the most profound implications of morphic resonance, and that is its relevance to us. Its connection to what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. Jung believed we share a deeper layer of consciousness filled with universal patterns and symbols that appear across cultures, which, as it happens, aligns pretty well with the concept of morphic resonance. Even Sheldrake pointed out morphic resonance theory would lead to a radical reaffirmation of Jung's concept of the collective unconscious. But just think about it for a second. Why do certain symbols, stories, and fears appear in cultures that had no contact with each other? Why do we have similar dreams, similar mythologies, similar ways of understanding the world? Maybe it's because, as Einstein once said, a human being is part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. Maybe we are more connected than we realize. And this isn't just philosophical speculation. If morphic resonance is real, it means every act of learning, every moment of creativity, every breakthrough in understanding contributes to a collective field that benefits all of humanity. Imagine if every time someone overcame fear, it became slightly easier for others to be brave. Every act of compassion strengthened the field of compassion. Every breakthrough in consciousness expanded the possibilities for everyone. But what does that actually mean in terms of practical application in our everyday lives? Whether or not morphic resonance is scientifically proven, how could this concept be relevant to you? Well, first, it suggests that your personal actions matter more than you think. We live in a world that often makes us feel insignificant, with overwhelming, all-consuming issues like climate change, political turmoil, unspeakable violence, and social inequality. It's easy to think, what difference can one person make? But if morphic resonance is real, every positive action you take doesn't just affect you and your immediate surroundings, it contributes to a field that makes similar positive actions more likely everywhere. When you choose kindness over cruelty, you're not just being nice to one person, you're strengthening the morphic field of kindness itself. When you choose courage over fear, wisdom over ignorance, love over hate, you're contributing to the collective human potential for each of those qualities. I've shared this Margaret Mead quote before, but the relevance of her words in this context are undeniable when she said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And maybe she was more right than she knew. Maybe change happens not just through direct action, but through morphic resonance, through the invisible fields we create and strengthen with every conscious choice. Think about the great movements in human history, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, the Civil Rights Movement. Maybe these weren't just historical one-offs, but moments when a critical mass of enough people tapped into and strengthened certain morphic fields, like creativity, reason, or social justice, until they reached a tipping point. And here's where this gets really exciting. If morphic resonance is real, then we're living at a crucial moment in human history. We have access to more information, more connection, more awareness than ever before. We can consciously choose to participate in strengthening the morphic fields that will benefit all of humanity. Every meditation session could contribute to a field of inner peace. Every act of environmental consciousness could strengthen our collective connection to nature. And every moment you choose growth over stagnation and unity over division, you're helping to shape the very fabric of our collective reality. And when it comes to gratitude, the great British philosopher Alan Watts once said, gratitude is not simply saying thank you for things. It's the recognition that you have everything you need. When you feel grateful, you're not looking. And when you're not looking, you're not chasing. And at that moment, you vibrate at the frequency of abundance. Because the universe doesn't speak in language, it speaks in resonance. And gratitude is the song of alignment. And consider this, if these fields exist across space and time, then the wisdom of every generation, every culture, every individual breakthrough is still accessible to us. The insights of Buddha, the creativity of Da Vinci, the courage of civil rights leaders, it's all still there waiting for us to tune in and download, as it were. This means the distance between you and greatness might be smaller than you think. It might just require the right frequency, the right resonance. But just to be clear, I'm not asking you to blindly accept morphic resonance as scientific fact. The evidence is still being debated, and healthy skepticism is completely normal. What I'm asking you is to consider the possibility, to sit with the implications, to imagine what it would mean if we truly are all connected in this deep, mysterious way. Because regardless of whether morphic fields exist in the way Sheldrake describes, I personally believe our actions do ripple out into the world. Our consciousness does affect others, and our choices do matter. So as you go about your day, remember, you're not powerless. You're not insignificant. Every positive thought, every kind action, every moment of growth could be contributing to something larger than yourself. Where your attention goes, energy flows. You are helping to write the story of human consciousness itself. And in a world that often feels dark, that itself is a revolutionary act of hope. So I'll end with one of my favorite Rumi quotes, because it seems particularly fitting in this instance. In his words, you are not just a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop. So remember, your consciousness matters, your choices matter, and you matter more than you could possibly know. And on that note, I'd like to thank you for watching this episode. Please feel free to share it with anyone it may resonate with, pun intended, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, I'd be grateful if you could give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again soon.